Hello my dear friends, once again I welcome you to Marriage Without Tears channel. Today we are looking at how to complain to your spouse without offending him or her. Quality communication, like you know, is one of the hallmarks of a great thriving marriage. If you want to see a marriage that is actually functional, it has to do with a couple that know how to communicate with one another effectively, so that nobody is left in doubt as to the intentions of any of the partners in the relationship. Anytime you also see a couple that is at daggers drawn, it is because they have lost it in the area of communication. As we discuss this topic today, I want you to take pen and pencil or paper and begin to write some of the points down, because you will need them as you go on in your marriage. How to be skillful in communicating your intentions, your thoughts, your concerns to your spouse without offending him or her. Because an offended spouse suddenly becomes defensive. And when a spouse becomes defensive, you can hardly achieve the desired outcome. So please, I want you to actually listen to me. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so immediately. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate all my subscribers out there, because our subscriber base is actually increasing by the day, and so are the viewers of this channel. So if you want to join the family, please, all you need to do is to click on this red button, become subscribed, and become a part of this channel. So let's go to the topic really. You want to make a complaint, and yet you don't want to offend your spouse, and yet it is a very grievous hurt to you. There are systems to go about it. The very first thing you must observe is right timing and the right setting. The right timing and the right setting is very important. You don't have to discuss it immediately the hurt comes, or immediately your husband or your wife does something that is wrong, then you rise up and begin to come. No, you can sit back. You can just hold on a little. Just wait until the right moment. Possibly, if that person is a worker and he or she goes to work very early in the morning, allow him to go to work, finish whatever is the work schedule, come back home, entertain one another during dinner, and then in the night you can just call their attention, especially when that person is relaxed. Here you bring up the issue, and then it is also very necessary for you to do it at the right setting. Don't do it when the children are all gathered around you, so that they begin to know that mommy and daddy are having a problem. That's not the right setting. Don't do it in the midst of strangers. That's not the right setting. Don't do it when you are, watching television and other attractions are infringing on your private. No, that's not the right setting. The right setting is when you are alone, and you know that your partner can actually hear you. That's the right setting. So observe the issue of right setting and right timing. Very, very important. The second thing you must also observe is learn how to complain with your own feelings on the table. Instead of pointing out how your partner has offended you, point out how you feel about the offense, so that you can get his own attention or her own attention. Use the I statements. Darling, I felt surprised the way you reacted to so and so thing when we were discussing that. I felt surprised, or I felt embarrassed, or I didn't know how I felt when so and so something happened. Use the I statement instead of saying you offended me, or you did this, or you did that, or if not because you did so and so. No, the moment you begin to point out his errors or her errors, that person rises in defense of the person's position. He rises in defense, because the moment you become accusatory, then your partner will rise in defense. But the moment it's all about how you felt, or what you have this desire, then it becomes a different scenario. One other thing you also need to do anytime you are laying a complaint is to be issue concerned. Be more interested on bringing out a specific issue to address, because so many people make that mistake. Anytime they are laying a complaint, instead of laying a complaint on a particular issue, possibly your husband or your wife offended you on a particular subject, instead of dwelling on that subject, they begin to gather other issues. I mean, you want to discuss a particular thing that happened this morning, but you begin to remind your spouse about the same event or a similar event that happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 6 months ago. Anytime you do that, you begin to gather other issues to join what we are talking about. You make the matter worse. You know, I appeal to you as a partner in a relationship. Anytime you are hot over an issue, pinpoint that issue, discuss it with your spouse, get it resolved and push it aside. Also, whenever you are discussing any matter or you are laying a complaint, be solution-minded. Be willing to proffer an effective solution to that situation, because that will only tell your spouse that your mind is still in the relationship. Because anytime you are complaining and complaining without giving a possible solution to that complaint, I mean, you miss the point. You miss the point. I have seen people who say, darling, you are always coming back late from work. Why is it that you are coming back? First of all, you are accusatory, without also bringing out what you can or what your spouse can do to make him come earlier. You understand? Instead of saying, darling, you are coming back from the way, just tell him, darling, I feel so bad whenever I see you coming back so late from work, because the danger on the road, the kind of atmosphere when you are coming back, you come back very late when other people are already resting. Darling, why is it not better that when you have done that work to a certain level, carry the rest of them and bring them home? I will appreciate it, so that you can come back early, and whatever needs to be done that you could have taken more time in the office, when you bring it home, you can spend maybe 1 or 2 hours after your dinner and handle them, so that you be solution-minded. Be solution-minded. Anytime you are able to proffer a solution to that issue, it will make your spouse to know that you are not just, you are thinking beyond the complaint. You are thinking in terms of how to resolve that situation. Instead of saying, darling, you don't visit my parents, you don't care about them, no. That is accusatory. That is accusatory. Instead, you could have said, darling, I feel, I don't know how I feel anytime mommy calls me and he says that we don't visit. Darling, is it not good if we can, at least find a way to be visiting them, even if it is during the weekend? Let's see whether we can see them, even if it is spend 30 minutes or 1 hour with them, and then we leave, so that this question of that we are not coming back all the time will not be an issue. So what does that say? It says while you are talking about how you are feeling, you are not accusatory, and also you are bringing a solution that will resolve that conflict, that area of complaint. That's what I mean by being solution-minded. Very, very important. Another thing you have to also be mindful of whenever you are laying a complaint before your spouse, no matter how hot you are, no matter how embarrassed you are, no matter how terrible the situation may be, please learn how to control your emotions, control the tone of your voice. Because anytime you raise your voice to a high syllable, it appears as if there's a confusion or as if the whole atmosphere has become chaotic. But if you learn how to control your emotions, how to control the tone of your voice, you can still make an effective complaint without actually embarrassing him or her. Very, very important. Because I have seen people, instead of doing that, they raise their voices. You realize it. Neighbors are getting interested in the subject. People outside that should not feel concerned about it are beginning to feel concerned. And then because your spouse is already feeling the hot on the heat, he becomes defensive. Or he may also raise his voice in response. And what you have is a chaotic situation. So learn how to control your emotions. Learn how to control your voice. With a quality tone of voice, you can still make a desired complaint. You can still say what you want to say and still achieve a better outcome. Very important. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so immediately. Please click on this red button and get subscribed. Let me give you just 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just click on this red button. Become part of this wonderful. The next thing I also want to talk about is learn how to focus on the situation instead of the personality involved, because we make that mistake all the time. Focus on the situation, focus on the area of disagreement, focus on what happened, what transpired between both of you. Focus on that instead of attacking the character of the individual. And I know we all do that sometimes. We all try to remove our eyes from the actual event that happened and begin to attack the personality. No, the personality is not the problem. The personality is a good person, is a jovial person, is a wonderful person. Possibly there is an error in behavior, there is an error in disposition, there is an error. But because that error is there does not mean that that person has become a negative individual or a melancholic individual. No. Please, I want you to know that. Don't look at the individual, look at the problem involved. Because if your mind is just, you are looking at the problem, then it becomes easier for you to attack the problem and resolve it. So your complaint should not be about the person's character. And what do I mean by that? Why are you always this stupid? You are a very stupid person. You are daft, you are ignorant, you are this and that, you are a sorry sight, you are, that is, you are talking about that person. It's about that person. You are discussing that person, and you are laying all manner of terrible adjective to describe your spouse. And at that point in time, your spouse will rise up in anger and in defense. So because anybody you attack his character will always like to defend himself. But when you say what you did is fundamentally wrong, or I felt embarrassed when I discovered that you actually did something, it is fundamentally wrong. The idea you suggested is not, to me, I think we need to discuss it further. Don't tell him or her that the idea you suggested is terrible or is useless. No. You can say the idea you suggested, we need to sit and discuss it further. Because for me, I think it needs further input. It's coming from a good heart, but we need to further discuss it and to see whether there are areas we can fine tune them. Your language makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. So focus on the problem and not the personality involved. It will do you a whole world of good. You want to lay a complaint to your spouse without actually offending him or her. Then you need to acknowledge his or her own perspective. Don't always feel that you are the one that has monopoly over wisdom. No, there's nothing like that. Behind everything, in every human being, there is a virtue that person has that is bringing to the table, which you may not have. I normally have a saying that even a broken clock is right twice in a day. So sometimes sit back, check the perspective of your spouse. Know very well that he or she has an opinion which may need fine-tuning. Don't use because you are the only one that is bringing these ideas, feel that you alone have monopoly over what should happen. No, two of you have become one, and when you raise an issue, an idea, a vision, a dream, there's a need for you to find out how the other person is feeling about it. And if the feeling of the other person is not okay with how you feel, then there is also a need for you to sit in wisdom and discuss it like adults. Don't begin to undermine the other person's vision. Don't begin to undermine the other person's dream or our own ideas and suggestions. So try as much as possible to check the perspective of your partner. If you learn how to do that, then it becomes easier for you to lay a complaint without actually offending him. Very, very important. In trying to get an effective solution when you make a complaint, try as much as possible to appreciate one another in anything you are doing. Know very well that for the other person to even sit down and hear you, you need to appreciate him or her. For the other person to even seek to correct some of the things or some of the things he or she perceives as an error, is a way of adding value to your own humanity as a person. Very, very important, because you may miss the point when your spouse is complaining and you fail to either hear, or you become defensive, or you are even eager to challenge his or her own position. You may miss that thing that he or she is trying to communicate, because that is an area that can enhance you as a person. So there is a need for you to actually appreciate that person's contribution, even though you may not actually agree with his or her own position. But there is a need for you to appreciate that person. There is a need for you to feel that gratitude towards that person, because it takes a whole lot for somebody to try to, give you suggestions or tell you things that can add value to your own personality. Not everybody has that interest concerning you. So for your partner to have that interest to build you up, to see things that are wrong and be able to open up to you, is a great advantage. Many people look for that and they don't get it. So it's very important indeed. And as the person that is laying the complaint, anytime your partner also rises up and want to, offer words, please don't always feel as if you are the only one that has the answers. No, also try and wait on him or her to make a contribution. Very important. Be appreciative and be grateful. Allow him or her to make her own or his own contribution to the argument or to whatever is on the table. Very important. A whole lot of people miss that point. They lay out their complaints and they don't wait for the reaction of their partner. You need to wait for the reaction. If you are just joining me, this is still Marriage Without Tears channel, and we are looking at how to make a complaint without offending your spouse. As you know, many people do that, and in the process of making that complaint, you end up offending your spouse. And like I said earlier, an offended spouse is a defensive spouse. Is one that rises up in defense of his or her own position. So what we are talking about is how to lay that complaint without, without offending our spouses. The next point I want to raise actually is in the area of making compromises. A very wonderful partner should know when to accommodate one another, how to accommodate every person's standing, every person's perspective. The problem we have in most marriages is that every partner wants it to be done his or her own way. No, it doesn't work that way. Your expectations may be different from that of your spouse. And if you are able to get around in any subject or discuss any subject, no matter how hot you are, please allow yourself to understand that the answers doesn't lie only in you, and it doesn't lie only in you, really. So open up and also be a listener. As you listen to his own position, find out whether there are ways you can accommodate his own views or her own views with yours, because compromise is the essence of a quality relationship. You must be able to give an accommodation to one another's ideas, one another's positions and suggestions. Somebody may be speaking out of the little knowledge he or she has on a subject, but because you have a broader knowledge on that subject, it is not for you to write off whatever he or she is saying, but it is necessary for you to communicate your own position and then allow both of you to harness your own, your individual positions together and come out with an effective result. Very, very important in any relationship. I discovered that a whole lot of us don't want to compromise. We have our own positions, we have our own feet dug on the ground, and we don't want to shift. No, quality relationships doesn't work that way. You need to make allowance for one another's views and one another's positions. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. Just to add to that, you need to let go. You need to know when to let go. If you have been complaining about an issue for such a long time, and it appears as if your spouse doesn't want to change, instead of allowing that issue to become, to undermine your relationship, it is necessary for you to know when to let go. I will give you an example. Your husband or your wife doesn't like to take dinner, or anytime she wants to take dinner, it is always very late. And you discover that you have talked about that for a very long time, and he or she still doesn't want to change. You may let go. You may allow him to start taking his dinner when he desires to take it. Maybe that's the way his own system functions. If you have discovered that your spouse doesn't normally, do a particular thing the way you desired it to be done, and every of your complaints has fallen onto deaf ears, you may let go for a season. Find other ways of ministering to him, either by exemplary lifestyle, because sometimes your example can cause your partner to shift his or her own position. The exemplary life you're living, how you are showing it by your own lifestyle, can make your partner shift ground and begin to do those things you actually want him or her to do. So you don't allow your relationship to go on in the altar of bickering and fault finding and all that, because if you continue doing that over time, it can undermine the very essence of your marriage. That is why when you find your partner doing the same thing all over again and you simply can't find a solution, I will give you the very last thing you will do. The very last thing you will do. What is that last thing? Seek for a counselor. Look for a marriage counselor, somebody who is trained and that has the experience to dissect your marriage, to dissect the situation and find a quality solution to what you are facing. That is what a counselor does. He listens to both of you. And I can tell you that the solution may just be at the tip of your fingers, but you are going too deep. It may be that some of the things that is happening around him is a culture that he picked up from his parents in his, from his youthful days. And he has lived with that culture till about 30 years old when he got married. And then you are in the marriage for about 2 years and you want him to change. It is difficult. So it may take a while. The counselor will be able to look at those things, look at the situation, look at his life, and see whether it is something that came out of his cultural setting, how he grew up before even he met you as a man or as a woman. So that is the situation. Well, look for a counselor, look for somebody who is trained in the aspect of marriage and other forms of human relationships. That person will be able to pinpoint whatever is amiss and be able to counsel you on how to get out of the situation. Once again, my name is Felix Okeke, and I want you, please, as you listen to some of the things we have mentioned in this channel, please begin to put them in practice. Put them in practice. Watch this very edition over and over again. If you adopt some of the things I've mentioned here on this very edition, I can tell you that you will come out of every complaint with a positive result. And that is the idea we want to share. That every time you have something to complain, about, whether it's your frustration or disappointment or hurt or concerns, as you complain them to your spouse, you will come out with a positive result. It will not be a time for him or her to begin to be defensive, but it will be a time for both of you to sit back and be able to look at how to get out of that predicament, how to get out of that challenge. Very important. And once again, before you check out of this edition, look at this red button, click on it, become subscribed, and let's do this again and again to the glory of God. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have an awesome season.